I'm Aaron.
I'm Nick,
I'm Zach.
and this is our as of yet unnamed podcast.
Woohoo.
Welcome.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! uh, we're gonna get started. We're gonna talk about some gaming experiences we've had recently. We're just gonna go around to kind of open it up, talk about some game experience that we had this week or recently. So, Zach, you want to start us off with that?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So my gaming experience from this week was I was playing Kingdom Come Deliverance again,
Mm-hmm.
and there's this part in the main story where you're invited to go and like investigate this bandit raid or whatever, and you're like, yeah, okay, join the party or whatever, and so I was like, okay, cool, I gotta go get some equipment first. So I went and I got some equipment and everything. Anyway, when they were setting out, they're like, oh yeah, you can go get some stuff, but don't take too long. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever, you're a video game. And then I was like, oh no, wait, I've been playing this game long enough to think that maybe I should actually hurry. And it turns out I was right. I got back and they're like, wow, you took a long time. We almost left without you. And I was like, yeah, okay. And Elise, who was watching me play this, she looked up online. It turns out that this main quest thing will just go on without you. If you're not there on time, or if you take too long, and I thought that was awesome. They'll just leave you. They'll just be like, okay, well, he took too long, bye. And so I thought that was so cool because it feels, I don't know, it just feels like, I think a lot of times games struggle with the urgency thing. Like you got Breath of the Wild or Skyrim or something like that, and they'll be like, hurry, and then it's like, and then it will wait for you. You know, it doesn't really require you to hurry anywhere, because it wants you to have the freedom to go and do whatever you want in this big open world setting. But in this open world setting, it was like, no, you got to be here in like 5 minutes, or we're leaving without you. I thought it was great. It was cool. It was different.
So what happens if they do leave without you?
Well, like the quest,
main quest to do.
Well, I think that
forever stuck in side content.
Start to side quests from then on out.
I don't. No, you can still do the main story. It's just that it changes. Somehow. I don't know. I didn't do it. But Elise was reading it, and she was telling me that if you wait long enough, they'll leave without you, and they'll go to the place where you're supposed to be doing this thing. And if you wait, and then you can like go and catch up to them, and they'll already be there, and they'll be like kind of pissed at you and everything and stuff like that. But and which is important. Like in this game, it tracks your reputation with like individual characters and stuff, and so like that does have an effect on the game. And then also, if you wait even longer, they'll like go ahead and you will like lose opportunities to be involved in that mission that they're doing. It'll just move on without you. So yeah.
That's cool. So they like keep track of your tardiness in the game.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
that affects their desire to want to work with you or want to.
Yeah, well, you're just like this peasant, you know, and they're like, well, I'm not really impressed with the way you handled that, Mr. Peasant. So maybe I don't know.
That's an interesting solution to the open world problem, because you're right. You're playing something like Breath of the Wild, and it's like. You have to defeat Ganon. He's taken over the world. Zelda's been locked in this struggle with him for 100 years. You have to get there. Link's like, okay, but let me cook this omelet first. You know.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep an engaging, driving narrative when you can just, slack it off and do whatever.
Yeah, when it literally waits for you to get to the next
without consequence. Yeah, so that's actually what they throw some consequence in there.
Yeah, it's a lie. I mean, it's saying this is urgent, this is important, but it's not. It's just paying lip service to that idea.
Yeah, which is kind of, I don't know. I know that we have other stuff we want to talk about today, but it just kind of. It makes me wonder why so many games do say, hey, this is urgent, and then it isn't, because it just draws attention to the fact that it actually isn't urgent when you do something like that,
I guess in some way it leaves it up to you as the player to create your own urgency. where it's like if you want to just focus on the main quest, you can kind of role play that it is actually urgent. And then if you want to do something else, you can role play that it's not even an issue yet. Or
you can role play that Link doesn't care and would prefer to go fishing and upgrade his clothing.
Yeah, well, I think something like Breath of the Wild, it does a couple of things, I think, to get around it. In that, Link, you got to feed Ganon, but you're going to get squashed if you go right now. So you got to prepare yourself. And I think a lot of games, that's kind of a lot of open world games. It's that prepare yourself. But yeah, you could spend 100 hours, quote unquote, preparing yourself.
Yeah.
And then when you do meet the challenge, it's not even a challenge anymore. So all of that suspense and tension is gone. So.
Yeah. Well, Breath of the Wild is such a fascinating example of this. Because like I remember I got into that game and it was like hurry, and I was like, oh yeah, no, I do feel a sense of urgency on this thing. I know that it's going to wait forever in real life, but I did feel the urgency, and so I role played and okay, well I gotta hurry. Like I just I couldn't comfortably role play a Link who didn't care about that, and so I was like, okay, well I guess I gotta hurry. So I did everything that I felt I had to do, and then I went for it. And I was kind of disappointed about that actually, because I was like, I'm actually more interested in exploring this wide open world, but I've kind of like, but it just doesn't feel right to waste all my time because I am invested in the story, and it does feel like it's an urgent thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
If you buy into the narrative, it's kind of at the open world's expense. And if you buy into the open world, it's kind of at the narrative's expense.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah. And this one was kind of cool in Kingdom Come Deliverance because it was like, it's not like the whole game is like, hurry. It's like, like the end goal or the whole story is like, hurry, you have to do this. It's just like, there was this one mission that we had to do and it was urgent that we did it right then. But like the rest of the time, it's pretty chill. So. I mean, like so far, I'm sure there's going to be more stuff like that, but
yeah,
that's kind of an interesting way to balance it, though. I haven't heard of that before in a game.
I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, coolio. We'll move on then to Aaron. Your gaming experience.
Yes. Okay. So gaming experience. So last night I was playing games and I was thinking in my head, what is my gaming experience that I can talk about? I don't really know if I had anything. And so real quick, one that came to mind that's kind of silly, but I think, it's a valid gaming experience. So recently the demo came out for the new Hyrule Warriors game, the Age of Calamity, which, speaking of Breath of the Wild, it's a prequel game. It's about fighting the big battles that lead up to it.
Cool.
Anyway, but it's the combat, Hyrule Warriors, it's a Musou style game. So it's like you versus 1,000 pretty disposable dudes as you occasionally get bigger dudes to fight and you complete objectives. So the combat's completely different in Breath of the Wild. So I didn't really know what to expect. But there was this one moment where I realized that there was a certain combination of moves as I was playing Link, that Link then just jumps on his shield and rams into the guys. And I was like, okay, that's a cool combat move. But then I was like, oh, but what if I can use that to travel around? And I was like, it probably won't let me because it's a combat thing, But then it did. And I could just shield surf to get to places. And it was just such a delightful feeling. And I was like, yes, like something I wanted. And it was there. And I don't know. It just made me think of that kind of gamer expectation versus what the game delivers. And I don't know, the way it did that. Because like not every character had a move that could help them in traversal. And the fact that Link did, I don't know. It was fun for me.
That is fun.
A pleasant surprise.
Yeah. But anyway, as I was thinking about that example, because just real quick, I just want to talk about something that actually did have a meaningful impact on me.
Sure.
I was at the same time I was playing Ori and the Blind Forest, and I got to this moment. You know how kind of each level concludes with this escape platforming crazy thing.
That piece.
Yeah.
The music ramps up. The music in the game is amazing. But so it's like doing this is like, oh, this is crazy. And, I'm constantly having this feeling of dying. But, okay, I can get this, and, the way you get through the difficult spots in that game. But then, like, the story just comes in, and, it has this moment where these couple of kind of antagonistic characters are given so much depth and just this empathy, put on you for them. It just blew me away, and I was just like, oh wow, like I was not expecting that. And then how it goes from there. So that was the moment. Like, well, I have to talk about that impact, both in a gameplay sense and in a narrative sense. I think was just fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Ori is so good.
Ori is not afraid to make you feel things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes me cry. It makes me sad.
Mm-hmm.
At parts, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Ori's awesome.
Will of the Wisps is like that too, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think
I'm excited to get to that one. I think I have one more main area to get to, and I assume the game's over soon after that, but
yeah. Well, sweet. Well, I'm gonna share my brief experience as well.
Yeah.
I kind of cheated. This is from last week, but it is an experience, and it's in it. I'm cheating on a couple of fronts because it didn't actually happen in a game, but it was surrounding a game. So a brief amount of context. Back in January, Zach started a Minecraft world, and over the course of the year, all of us brothers, all four of us, joined it and have been shaping this kind of a kingdom that we're building there. And so we've got all these different settlements that we're making, and it's been a big, long process. Minecraft's definitely like a long haul kind of a game where it takes a while, but you build up some really cool stuff. And so our brother surprises us all with this video that he made that's like this in-world, using some really fancy graphic kind of stuff. It's him walking around and looking at all of our creations set to this really awesome music. And it's like this. It was this super cool like monument to all of the things that we had created in this world together. I actually felt kind of emotional watching it because it's like, wow, we really have made some incredible things. Like, look at these cities we've made, and look at this infrastructure. Look at like these castles and these bridges and these roads and like all of these amazing things we've made. It was really cool.
I watched it again last night.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I watched it and I got to the end and I was feeling all emotional again. I was like, oh, I love this game so much.
It was really funny. Just it filled me with like this tremendous pride at our accomplishments and just this like, whoa, look at what we did together. So that was really cool.
That's awesome. I think sometimes, us or other people may look at video games and it's like, oh, it's digital. It's not really real. It's just this ethereal nothingness that's an illusion of some reality. But, it's, with a game like Minecraft, you actually, the code things that you actually make, like you create things,
Yeah.
You put effort and creativity and ingenuity into these actual things that you're building, and I think that is great that you can look in that and be proud of it.
Yeah. And you can affect permanent change too. Like what you do matters in Minecraft. That's really
like it's there forever kind of a thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's there forever, and it it's cool. And there's just there's no limits. I mean,
it's a lot of fun.
That's great.
It's also like, I think what makes it fun for us is that there's another layer to it where we're like actually building a society on top of the in-game mechanics,
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's what we're making it, it's what we're investing into it, and like we're kind of like designing a game on top of the game that makes it more enjoyable to us. So yeah, because it is just a sandbox. It is just building stuff, but the fact that we've like added our own layer to it, I think that makes it even better.
Yeah,
for sure.
Anyway,
and I feel like Minecraft's just built to facilitate that kind of stuff. It's cool.
It's so cool.
Yeah. Well, awesome.
Cool.
That concludes our game experience section, unless you guys had anything else you wanted to add. We're going to move on to the discussion portion of our day, and that's me. So I have prepared a question, that I'm going to pose to you with a little bit of context. So sometimes here is my my question.
Okay.
Well, here's the part that comes before the question. Sometimes I'm playing a game, like The Last of Us. I am playing along, and I'm in this really long, tense encounter, and I'm getting towards the end of it, and I feel super tense because I know that if I die, I have to do the whole thing over again. And like, it's really tense. And I think in some ways it does, you're like, oh, this game is a horror game. It's about tension. It's about scare stuff, in a lot of ways. And so you're kind of experiencing some of that. And so it is a tense experience, but I feel like it's kind of contrived because loss of progress, like you're just losing time, and you just kind of end up having to repeat yourself. So I don't know what my question then is. What do you guys think about games using the threat of losing progress as a way to create tension? How do you guys feel about that?
Ooh, yeah. Well, I know this was the example I brought up last week with Zach's question, but Dark Souls.
Yeah.
That a lot of the difficulty in that game is losing progress, losing resources, losing, going back, to a state. You battle a boss and you get to almost killing him, and then he kills you, and then, you back miles away, having to get through hordes of enemies, before you get to him again. But I think with that game, I don't know, because it does feel a bit punishing sometimes. It's like, why can't I just start at the beginning of the boss, and get through? But I think also that game kind of uses that to his advantage sometimes, because sometimes, say I'm battling a boss in Dark Souls or Bloodborne, I use a lot of my health in battling that boss. I die. Of course, I guess in Dark Souls your health does regenerate, but some of your resource, some expendable resource you use, while fighting the boss. If you just start at the beginning of the boss and it still had that system, now you're repeatedly just fighting with less and less resources. But since you have to go through a horde of guys to get there, on the way, you collect more souls, you collect more resources. I guess in a bit of a grind sense, but then you can kind of be prepared. Not to mention, you're also practicing combat again and again
the whole way up to the boss. To
get back to that section. So I guess maybe since in Dark Souls, this, I guess, again, similar to last week, where it's like Dark Souls, but Dark Souls is better and different.
I know.
That's part of the conceit of the game. It's to get good. It's everything is practice. Every combat encounter, every level you go through, everything you're training to get better and better. So I think maybe when a game does that it's not just, oh, we just have terrible checkpoints because we decided to do that, and it's rough for you, and you're just replaying things again and again. I guess that could be a problem, but I think Dark Souls, found a creative way around that. I don't know.
It's kind of funny how it's like, this is, we were talking about this yesterday. This is a problem, except with Dark Souls. Dark Souls Dark Souls is just perfect, apparently. No, I think, like Aaron was saying, because Dark Souls is about getting good at Dark Souls, that when you reset, like, it doesn't actually interrupt your progress, because your progress is towards getting good at Dark Souls. Instead of, like, I don't know, maybe a different kind of game, The Last of Us or something you brought up, like maybe that's your objective when you're playing that game. But when I was playing The Last of Us, I wanted to have the story and everything, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so when I had to reset, I was like, I wanted this is interrupting my progress. But with Dark Souls, it's different, you know, for that reason. Does that make sense?
Alrighty, we're back.
Back in.
Yeah, sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties and lost the internet, so but we've reclaimed it.
The internet, we had to go find it. It took some time.
It was Sam and Max. They killed the internet. Anyway.
Through the magical power of editing, we are. Bloop, bloop, bloop.
We've saved the internet through editing.
Anyway,
Aaron,
before
you were saying something.
Yeah, before we cut out. And I'll try to make it so this podcast isn't just me bringing every topic back to Dark Souls. But I think it is, kind of an interesting study, an interesting, like you said, almost contradiction to these problems in other games. But what I was saying before is there's kind of this conceit with games, especially real narrative-driven games, where you're participating in the story, and anytime your actions don't line up with the character, like for example, you die, then it's you're restarting the story to get back into the quote unquote canon aspect of that story. So for something with like The Last of Us, you're Joel, you're Ellie, you're getting through these zombies, you're trying to get to your destination. In that canon aspect of the story, they don't die, they don't turn into zombies, they don't fall off a cliff or whatever. And so every time those things happen, it's like you're restarting, try again, this time actually getting to get through the story to connect back into the narrative. So I'm trying to think, like, if there would then be a purpose to having the checkpoints, being really far apart, or having to get through like a certain aspect. Like, do you think maybe that could be used to keep the fluidity of that narrative? That if you die, then it's like, okay, this whole section restarting again this time,
so that you can get back in the groove and like have the whole
that is. It's not like you don't just like blip and get back in the action. Like it's I don't know.
It's like it's a sequence that it wants you to go through again.
I mean, like we see that in like games like Celeste and Ori all the time, actually, where it's like, no, you. I don't know if you've done the Ginso tree yet, Aaron. I don't want to spoil it for you if you have or haven't.
I think it's the first one with the water rising.
Yeah. Like you have to do the whole thing. You can't. It doesn't reset you at any point in the middle of it. You have to go back to the beginning every single time.
Yeah, well, it's the same one. The last thing I did was with the wind, and it is kind of a thing where it's like in the story, Ori does this perfectly, and so until you can do it perfectly, and that's kind of an aspect of that game too, where it's like you can't really do it on your first run because you kind of have to memorize where everything's at.
And
that's kind of an aspect of platforming in general, but it is kind of a thing with like in the narrative, you do it perfectly, and so until you do it perfectly, you redo it.
It's like failure isn't woven into the narrative, and so when you fail, it's like, oh wait, that didn't happen. Whereas
like in Sands of Time, he actually says that. He's like, wait, it didn't happen that way, let me start over.
Yeah,
that's right.
Well, I mean, it's kind of oh, sorry, go ahead, Nick.
No, it's just like in Dark Souls, the narrative follows that. Like the narrative is never broken in Dark Souls. It is constantly going, and every mistake you make, in much the same way that like with a lot of sandbox games or games that are just as systemic or emergent, like when something happens, it just happens, and you just keep going with those consequences.
Yeah.
In Dark Souls, you just happen to be immortal. You just happen to resurrect every time you die. So it's not like the game's stopping. The game keeps going. The story keeps going.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a really interesting point. I didn't think of it that way.
It's something I think with a game like Dark Souls, or I was thinking like with a, I don't know, like a RPG, with a roguelike, like something like, I don't know if either of you played Dead Cells, or we've talked about Hades.
Nah.
Every death is a canon part of the narrative.
Mhm.
Every thing is it contained in that. Whereas the other games are restarting. I was thinking too, kind of back to the narrative restart, to getting the canonity of the canonity, I don't know, of the game.
Oh, the humanity.
More canonity. Anyway, but in the Assassin's Creed series, I think they handle it kind of interesting, where you're replaying the memories of this person, and any time you do something different from what the actual person did, you get desynced from that and have to redo it again, and that's included in deaths or like mission failure.
It goes desynchronized, blah, 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 blah.
Which when I was playing something like Assassin's Creed Origins, since it's this big open world and you can kind of do stuff, the desynchronization didn't seem to make much sense, because like I can do a whole bunch of different stuff. But playing Assassin's Creed 2, when this idea is just burgeoning and just in this new franchise, I think it actually works really well, because everything is a bit more contained, and all of the side content is like, oh, these are things that Ezio did, so in order to completely sync up with his memory, you need to do these things. It's like, okay, makes sense. And then so it's basically doing the thing that the narrative games have always done, but pointing it out as saying this is what you're doing, which kind of, I don't know. I think that's an interesting approach to that. That it's that like every time you die or every time you do this, it's not part of the narrative that you're experiencing.
Yeah.
I gotcha. I think to answer your question, Nick, very simply, which is, do I like it? I don't like it. And I think that's why I don't tend to play platformers very much, or narrative games very much either. Like, I've been talking about like The Last of Us and Ori and all of these and Celeste lately, but like these are not games that I like sought out on my own. It was more like, hey, try this, it's really cool. And I was like, oh yeah, this is a standout example of something that is so well made that it kind of transcends my dislike for this kind of a genre of game, I guess. And so I play it and I enjoy it, but it's not really something that I would gravitate towards. I do think that there's a reason I tend to play more strategic or systemic games instead, more frequently, than the narrative or demanding platforming ones. I just don't like requiring perfection of myself. I don't like it at all.
So I'm trying to understand what games, like what you want games to be then, because if it's like, you don't like the games where you die and have to do things again and again, but then you also like when it's a narrative thing and you have to go back and replay a section. What's like the ideal way that a game handles it?
Well, this is I should clarify. This is just like a personal preference kind of a thing. I don't know if I really know the way that they should be, and I have nothing against them on like a. It's just a what I happen to enjoy and what I don't happen to enjoy. But my favorite experiences in games are when I mess up and then it just keeps on rolling and there's consequences, but it doesn't necessarily like make me go back and do it until I've got it right. So like to pick let's see, Crusader Kings, for example, is a game I've been enjoying a lot lately. Like you can get murdered and then it just keeps on going. You just pick up as your heir or whatever, and then the game continues. Your
failures.
And like I said, it's kind of what was that? Yeah, I like. I mean, death is permanent in real life too. So I kind of like. I like that. I like that true to life.
Well, it's like your failures. Sorry. Yeah.
No, I'm done. Go ahead.
Your failures are canonized. Like instead of only accepting like part of what you're contributing to the game, it's saying, yeah, no, everything you do is valid. Everything you do is canon. You can
including your mistakes.
Yeah, including your mistakes. Whereas a game like Celeste says no. You're gonna do this freaking pixel perfectly.
Yeah, and like I said, like it's just like a personal
usually
preference thing.
it doesn't make you go back with Celeste most of the. I mean, I guess it makes you go back a little bit, but you're like right. I don't know. I guess
It has a couple of gauntlets where you have to like string a few challenges together.
yeah, kind of similar with Ori, but
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but for the most part, it's kind of like room to room, screen to screen,
Yeah.
or checkpoint to checkpoint. Yeah.
And
But-
it uses those. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. It uses those to create tension. I think when the game is at its most tense is when it's doing that. It's like it uses that for like emotional climaxes and stuff like that. You have to do this in one go. Like when the story's at its most intense, that's when the save points get really sparse, I've noticed. In like Celeste
Yeah.
or Ori. And so like that's kind of where where I started with all of like where we started all of this with like it's this tension and you definitely feel it, but it's not narrative tension. It's like
Like a meta
really-
tension.
yeah, it's a meta tension. Yeah.
That's interesting. That's
But-
really interesting. I didn't think of it that
Yeah.
way. That's cool.
and I guess from that we've kind of gone off with the original idea of
Yeah. Sorry.
the
Oh, that's
question
okay.
was,
This
but
is fun.
thinking about it, because something, I don't know, I think sometimes that meta tension or artificial, emotions that a game might make a player feel, I think can be effective because in a lot of ways, games are kind of an illusion thing where we're playing through this narrative, but we're not actually there. We're not actually experiencing it. So the game has to do these things that kind of put us in that spot. That's like, okay, the character would be feeling really tense at this moment, and to kind of allow the player to also experience that, in a more, in a more real way, in a more way than just feeling it vicariously, from the character. We're also going to make it difficult for the player, and I can see maybe that can be a little cheap at times, or if it's replacing the narrative angle. But I think something, I don't know, in a game like Ori where you are escaping, this kind of terrifying situation, and you have to do it all in one go. I think that tension, that excitement is amplified a bit by the fact that you have to get it perfectly, or that you are feeling that tension of, this time I'm going to get it. And I think that does kind of bleed into the actual narrative of what's going on and kind of add an additional impact. I don't know.
That's a really interesting idea that kind of like the meta and the narrative can kind of bleed back and forth into each other.
It's like the game might be cheating a bit, but games by their nature cheat. Like that's kind of their thing. It's to lie and cheat in a way that we buy and that we stay engaged in. But
Yeah, it's a suspension of disbelief kind of a lie. It's like yeah, but anyway, yeah, I agree. I think that it's effective. I mean, I definitely feel tension when I'm playing Celeste or Ori, and I get to one of those gauntlets or whatever, and I have to. But I also get frustrated, and I don't like it. And I think I just prefer, I mean, whether or not it's doing its job well, is one thing. But I just, I think I just feel better when I'm playing a game that has, because you can have. Sorry, I'm kind of scattered here, but I think that I really enjoy when it doesn't use that particular trick to get me invested, because I feel tension when I'm playing games that don't have that meta effect, that say it's not, you're going to have to go back and replay this again if you mess up, and so me as a player is worried that I might have to go do it again. No, you failed the game, your punishment is you have to play the game some more. It's like so but I'm playing a strategy game or something, it's like I mess up, I lost it, okay, great, no, okay, I got to recover from this setback that I've just created for myself, and
I don't know. I find it a little more palatable personally.
That makes a lot of sense.
But I agree with Aaron that I think that there is a bleeding effect that seems to work pretty well.
Yeah. And yeah, go ahead, Aaron.
Well, I'm just wondering, like, just looking at this from a design perspective, if there's a way, like a game like The Last of Us could do it better. If
yeah, that's a really good question.
You know, like obviously, like you're gonna die playing the game, and obviously, your character is not gonna die. So how can they? You know, would it work something better where it's something like Assassin's Creed, or even I've been playing through the BioShock games recently, and they kind of have a thing where in games there's a way that you're revived and you just get back into the action, the same damage that you caused, the same resources you used. Like it's more, you're not going back in progress, you're just kind of going back, to get, I don't know.
Yeah.
But like in the narrative of the game, that's you don't actually die. So like I don't know how would that work with a game like The Last of Us.
Well, actually, I think The Last of Us also does a fantastic job at this, as well as doing a terrible job at this sometimes. And that's kind of the funny thing about this is I think that The Last of Us death scenes are incredibly affecting. When you die in The Last of Us, it's scary and it's upsetting. And this character that you like is, something terrible is happening to them. And that was enough to make me want to avoid dying really, really bad. And so I felt like I didn't need all of this extra attention of, all right, well, I have to do all of that over again. Like, just set me back, and I'm talking like, I recognize that it can't just set you right before you died. Like, they have to have like these kind of planned out encounters and stuff like that. But like, it's the big long ones where they're all strung together, where you have to do a whole bunch of tasks and stuff like that. I don't feel the need for the extra attention for that, because I'm already terrified of dying, because I don't want a clicker biting into my neck and pulling who knows what out.
Your gizzard.
Yeah, out of your neck.
So to you, Nick, the solution is just a more generous checkpoint.
I don't know that there's any. In a narrative game like The Last of Us, I think that would do it for me. And I think it's a case by case kind of thing. I don't.
Yeah, you wouldn't. Yeah.
Like I found I didn't need it in The Last of Us. And I would have preferred to have had checkpoints, I think, in that game. And I'm hesitant to try to draw a principle from it, or a one core idea that like I would apply to everything, because I don't feel like I understand it well enough yet. But in The Last of Us, I think I would be comfortable if the checkpoints were more generous. Yeah,
I think I like that. I also think that it is important to remember that like every game is trying to accomplish something different. So like it might be that like like with a narrative game there may not be a better solution. And I mean I think we should look for one if you're into making narrative games or whatever. But there may not be a better one than what we've currently got. I just find myself enjoying different approaches in these other games, and I find myself enjoying them more, So I don't know. Hopefully that makes sense.
Gotcha. Yeah, just kind of a preference for you then.
Yeah, well, it's like a preference, and then it's also like, what is the point of this particular game? Because every game's trying to sell a different experience and different feelings and different gameplay and everything. So like you couldn't. I really don't know how you could have done a narrative game like The Last of Us or any narrative game differently, where it's like, oh yeah, no, yeah, anyone can die and then they'll just be dead, and then and then you just have to live with it, because you got to do voice acting and writing and animation and stuff like that. It doesn't work like that. So.
And you also,
go ahead, Nick.
No, you got a story to tell. Like, I mean, The Last of Us wasn't written with the intent. The Last of Us is a story that they want to tell and they want you to experience. It's completely ridiculous to try to compare it to something like Crusader Kings, which is about emergent storytelling and about making your own stories. Like that, you can't make a comparison there.
That's true.
There's it seems like games going forward are kind of tackling this aspect in an interesting way. I recently been watching my brother play the new Watch Dogs games, Watch Dogs Legions. Do you know much about that game?
We played the second one for a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a video about it.
So the idea in this game is that every NPC in the game is a playable character.
Really?
And yeah,
Whoa.
basically you're going through missions, you're recruiting people to help you accomplish different tasks and things. And when you recruit them, you then play as them to do a certain thing. And and you have to get to know them. You have to, as far as I understand, just watching my brother play it, you have to, maybe do a quest for them, get something they need, get somebody they need, or recruit somebody else, and then they'll trust you that they can get it. But the interesting thing, there is a version of the game. I think you can turn it up, but there's a version of basically permadeath, where if you die with
Really?
one of these NPCs that you recruited, or I guess they're not even really NPCs, one of these people you created, they're out of the game. Or if you do something that gets them killed, they're no longer an option for you to recruit. They're no longer a mission for you to complete. You're out. And if there's a character who's like, I'll only join you if you help my sister, and then you get their sister killed, they're never gonna then join your recruit thing. So I'm watching this, like, it's really fascinating that, like, it is actually, and there is a story to it, and there's dialogue. All of these characters are voice acted, and there's you play as all of them, but there's permadeath in this story where people are just, I don't know if there's a certain point where if everyone dies, I don't know what happens, but little by little, you're losing people in the game. I don't know. So I thought just kind of what you're talking about, there's a fascinating example of a new game kind of tackling this issue in a different way.
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah, that's really cool.
That's really neat. I'm gonna have to look into that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I haven't looked into that one much. And you said they're all pre-written, like that's not procedural or anything like that?
As far as I know, like, every character really seems unique. I mean, it's a brand new game. This watch my brother play. There's kind of some bugs with it, as you'd probably expect.
Well, they'll probably patch it.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. But yeah, it seems like you have all these 100 some odd unique characters that then are affected by what you do.
Oh, that's amazing. That's really cool. I love consequences in games, and that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, that makes me really interested in it. It's funny because, like, we played the second game, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is fun. I'm never
really
going to probably play any more of these. But that one makes it sound really interesting. What was that?
From what I've seen with Watch Dogs 2, there's not really consequences in that game.
Well, there weren't when we were playing it. Getting away with everything.
You can cause all this mayhem and then just,
They just forget about it. It's like, oh, it's been 5 minutes. I guess we got more important stuff to do. I don't know what the cops do in these games. Maybe they're just... I have no idea.
I know we just, like, blew up a bridge or whatever, and the cops are like 5 minutes later. Well, we haven't seen them in a while, so we'll move on.
Back to the donut shop, I guess. It's a pretty dim view of law enforcement, as a lot of these games have.
Yes.
Well, yeah. Well, did you guys have any other thoughts on the principal discussion? I mean, I really enjoy everything that's been shared.
I will probably have more thoughts about it later. I want to think some more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you open up an interesting can of worms, Nick. I think that it plays into a lot of different aspects of games and kind of what we started talking about at the end there, just game consequence in general, and what games do to keep us in the narrative, but that there's consequences for the actions, but that's still playable, and that there's weight to it. It's not artificial. I think this really goes into so many elements of game design that it's hard to give a real comprehensive look at it without starting a new podcast.
Yeah. Well, thanks for helping me sift through this can of worms as much as we have done.
Great question.
I'm sure that a lot of this stuff will come up again.
Yeah, I'll probably bring it up later. I'll be like, hey, I've been thinking about it. I know what I want to say now.
Well, sweet. Well, that concludes our principal discussion. We'll move on now. A quick announcement. So next week, So this week, rather, we're all going to be playing a game in preparation for next week's episode. We'll be doing kind of a deep dive into that, and that's something we're going to be doing, hopefully with some kind of regularity. But the game this week that we're all going to be playing is Celeste. Playing or replaying, or
as we've talked about it a bit already. So.
Yeah, so I don't remember how much we went into detail on that. Yeah, so we're doing that next week. Yeah.
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 Yep. Cool. The final portion, unless we have anything else to get to, is the recommendation portion where we all recommend a game that we've been playing, hopefully, or that we have played, hopefully. I don't know. I guess you can recommend a game you haven't tried. Try out Dark Souls 4. I'm sure it's great.
That's not even out yet. Wow. He knows things. That's what I think. I mean, Zaki said something like he's done with Dark Souls, but I don't know. It could be a thing.
Elden Ring's the next one.
Yeah. Yep. That's the next one coming out at some point.
With Morge R.R. Jarton.
Morge R.R. Jarton.
Yeah. He's decided he's done with A Song of Ice and Fire, I guess. I don't know. I'm gonna write video games now.
Power duo. See what comes of that. Yeah, so
Anyway,
Aaron, do you want to start off with a recommendation, and we can just go around and then...
Yes. So recently I've had the opportunity to play this really unique game called Return of the Obra Dinn.
Oh!
How do you like it?
I really like it. I haven't played too much of it. I've probably only played, an hour or two. But it's really fascinating just how the idea of the game is you're like this insurance person who's trying to find out what happened to this wrecked ship where all the passengers are gone, and figure out what happened to the ship. And the way that it plays out, where you find these clues, or you find like a body, and then you're given this stopwatch, and with the stopwatch you're allowed to see the last few moments of that person's life, to see kind of what happened in the moments before they died. And you'll hear some lines of dialogue, you'll hear some sound effects, you'll see kind of a freeze frame of what happened in that moment, that you can kind of walk around and see what's going on in the area, look at the faces of who's there. And then from that, you need to piece together who that person was, how they died, who was involved. And there's like 60 passengers, and throughout the game, you're just piecing these pieces together. You have a list of their names. You kind of have maybe what their job is, and from the little clues you get, you have to put it together. And really, like I've not played a game like that before, with that kind of puzzle element. And it's not like when they die, they're like, oh, I was Captain Roberts, and my first mate John shot me. How could this? It's sometimes you have to pick out. Is that voice? What the accent of that voice is, and have they shown up before, and who were they with, and the way you piece it together. It's really fascinating, and you can't just do like a process of elimination. It only counts if you get 3 correct. So once you get 3 correct, then it's like these are right. But until then, you're not sure if the guesses you're doing are correct or not.
Wow.
Wow.
So
I've heard.
Yeah, really fascinating game, and the art style, it's like this black and white, just kind of drawn art style that's just really unique, and kind of adds an additional challenge that you can't look at, like what the color of something somebody's wearing or things. It's I don't know, really unique game, really fascinating. I definitely recommend checking it out.
Yeah.
Excellent. Alrighty. Well, Zach, would you like to go next?
Kingdom Come Deliverance is really interesting. It's fresh, it's different, it's not it's challenging, and it's unique, and it keeps surprising me. So I mean, I know it's not new or anything, but I like it, and I'm having fun with it, and I'm going to keep going. So if anyone wants a fresh peasant simulator to add to your peasant simulator collection.
Well, I do think it's kind of interesting that last week you kind of used it as a negative example of game design, and then this one you used it as a positive. So that's
yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of both. There's a lot of stuff I'm really thinking. It's kind of experimental, is what it feels like. It's like, I don't know, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it's weird, and that's okay. I enjoy it because it is unique and distinct and different, and even though sometimes it's like and everything, but yeah, no, worth a try if you're interested in it. Yeah.
Isn't it supposed to be like really historically accurate too? Like,
yeah, actually, there's like constantly like you'll be like going through the game and it's like new entry has been added to your codex or whatever, and then you can like click the button and it will like open up a couple of pages of history for you to read about if you want to, about the things that are happening in the story. So it's like real life historical figures, and then like it talks about the lifestyle of the medieval people and everything, and it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome.
It's pretty immersive.
Super cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah. Well, I'll close out with mine then. It's a game that I talk about a lot, and that I know Zach's played a little bit of. Outer Wilds, easily one of my favorite games I played this year. I think it does a fantastic job of capturing both the freedom and autonomy that's given to you by games, but also weaving that really cleverly into its narrative that is a little more fixed. It is so I don't want to say too much about it because it's got a lot of fun tricks up its sleeve that are really best experienced. But it captures the wonder and the danger of space in a way that I haven't seen another game do. It's tense while feeling legitimate and genuine. It's super player driven. And so, like, really, you're kind of shaping how this all goes, and you have a lot of freedom to explore and to investigate. And it's kind of, you're kind of uncovering some stuff, trying to get answers to questions, but you can go about that in kind of whatever way you want. And I think it does it really cleverly. It's it's a space game. It's about flying around in a ship and exploring. But the Outer Wilds, or just Outer Wilds, I guess. That's mine.
Awesome.
Yeah, what little I played of it, I was really quite enjoying.
It's quite unique.
Yeah,
I think it's special.
That's great. Yeah, one of these days I'll get a PC and be able to check out some of these.
Yeah, and then we can play games together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep an eye out for a Twitch channel coming.
Twitch channel for the currently unnamed podcast people.
Unnamed Twitch channel to go with the unnamed
podcast. Oh, we got something here. Alrighty. Well, I think that about wraps up everything I've got for today.
Cool.
You guys have anything else?
Happy Halloween.
Oh yeah,
I guess.
Happy Halloween. We are recording this Halloween 2020 when there's not really a Halloween, but.
Yep.
Because whenever people listen to this, it won't be anywhere near Halloween anymore.
It's not going to be remotely close to Halloween.
Yeah, given some context. I mean, I actually, I did just doubt. I don't really like. Well, okay, I haven't played too many scary games. I get really jittery. I was like, I don't know if I want to play scary games, but I just downloaded a bunch of scary games.
Oh yeah.
See if I can make it through one of them. Yeah.
Let us know how that goes.
Well, okay. The first one, and mainly because they were on sale, and whenever I see games on sale, it's like, ooh, it's on sale. Maybe I'll play it eventually, but I'll get it now because it's on sale. But a couple of Resident Evil games are on sale. And I was like, okay, zombies. I'm playing Last of Us. See how they go. But the Amnesia games, which are quite frightening, and learning about them, like, I don't see myself playing that, but maybe I'll give it a whirl and expand my repertoire a bit. Because I don't know, it's a genre of games that we talked about games do something differently, and I think horror games are a pretty prolific genre that try to accomplish a certain thing. So
horror games can be really, there's a lot of innovation in that space, a lot of fun ideas.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Cool. But
well, that concludes
I can let you know how that goes.
Yeah. Well, that concludes our episode for today. Thanks for tuning in. If you did, if you didn't, you're not here. So, whatever, I guess.
Yeah, I need you.
Yeah.
Cool.
All
Till
right.
next week.
Bye.
Bye.